Joined right now with the big boss man, the Pav. We got Mark Pavelich from the MFC joining us from one province over. Pav, welcome to Radio TKO once again. You got to be pretty excited. We almost got showtime again at the River Creek Casino.
Yeah, of course I'm excited, man. Wouldn't you be excited if you own the biggest powerhouse in Canada in MMA?
You're damn right.
Wouldn't you be excited? I got the best fighter roster, I got the best sponsors, and I got the only TV deal.
That's excited. Right. I know I'm excited to come out there, get my credentials, and sit a whole 36 inches away from the ring like I did last time. So I know you guys take care of us media boys good.
Well, you know what it is because, see, I'm different than DW because DW shun on the internet media and all the rest of the stuff. I did not. I get a lot of mainstream media. I get a lot of internet media. I get a lot of, like, everything, right? Mm-hmm. So I embrace it all, man. I talk to the kid at the high school newspaper. I'll talk to TSN, Sportsnet, you name it. I do it all, man. And like I said, I don't segregate, you know. I need all the love possible.
And we appreciate it, or I do, because I do this thing on an internet level, but I'm also now involved with Team Radio out here in Vancouver. We're going to have you on live next Saturday on the 19th on Final Round, and it's great that I can bring you to everybody from the internet person that maybe, you know, isn't into the mainstream as much. They want their hardcore stuff, and then you got the mainstream guy listening to his radio in the truck. We're going to get the MFC spread to both of them.
Hey, Darcy, you know how I started? I was a kid, man. I was on my own when I was 14 years old. I was bussing tables, eh? Mm-hmm. Now I'm sitting here at 43, owning probably one of the third largest MMA organizations in North America, and we all started somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is, right, you know, like you just said, you started, you know, with your internet thing, and then boom, you're doing this and you're doing that. And like I said, that's why I've always showed people respect in the media. It doesn't matter what level they're at, because eventually, you know, you might be the next Larry King, right? Mm-hmm.
Hey, let's hope so. And if I do, I'll remember you said it first. Okay, enough of this table setting. Let's get into this fight card. Coming down, the MFC 28. Unfortunately, you lost a fighter for that card, and we had him in studio a little earlier in the show, Cajun Johnson. I'll let you kind of get into Cajun's situation, but all he wanted me to tell you was that he'll be back soon and to, you know, keep his belt warm for him. So, of course, he's supposed to face Richie Whitson. We now have a different opponent jumping in. Maybe let everybody know what's happened there.
You know, it's a shame because we just re-signed Cajun to a new 3-fight deal. And, you know, it's a shame he's injured, and, you know, but the show must go on. And like I said, you know, I still look at him as being one fight away from fighting for the title. So that hasn't changed, and nor will it change. And, you know, when he's better or, you know, he gets, you know, back to full speed, he'll have to fight that one fight. And then, you know, if he wins that fight, he'll go right into the, you know, title fight, you know. And I'm just waiting on him to get better. That's it.
So who does Richie Whitson face now? I know I've heard of the kid, but let's hear it from your perspective. Who are you bringing in to face Richie Whitson?
Well, of course, I just re-signed Curtis DeMars too, right? Mm-hmm. Because the kid is just an animal, right? Mm-hmm. He doesn't care. The one thing I love about this kid, we're guaranteed 1,000% on February 25th at the River Creek Resort and Casino that there's going to be a fight, right? Like we can say, you look at the rest of the fight card and you go, well, that guy's an awesome fighter, that guy's an awesome fighter, that guy's an awesome fighter. They're all awesome fighters. Now, but you look at it from the perspective of fighting. It's guaranteed. Richie Whitson and DeMars, they're gonna go out there and try to kill each other. And I'm telling you, that's what you're gonna expect in that fight. It was the same thing though if I put Cajun. That's why I did that fight, because I knew Cajun would have did the same thing with him. So I was like guaranteed that was gonna happen.
Yeah, and as you look at the rest of the card, there's one other fight that I believe we have a little bit of a switch in as well, and is that the light heavyweight fight with Rodney Wallace, Razak Al-Hassan? Am I right in saying that Emmanuel Newton's gonna be in that fight now?
Emmanuel Newton just re-signed with the MFC, right? You know, don't forget, in my 205-pound division, I have 8 guys that are in the top 50 in the world, okay? That's one thing people are very delusional about in MMA, especially in Canada, right? There's 2 things I got to clear up on your show today that drive me absolutely nuts. People using the terminology that there's some kind of big show. Let me tell you something. The MFC has probably in its roster 30 to 40 guys that are in the top 50 in the world in their various weight classes. Mm-hmm. Not alone that, you know, in the 205 division alone, I think I have about 8 guys in the top 50 in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you take a guy out like Razak, boom, you throw in Emmanuel Newton, and he's a former champ. He's in the top 50 in the world, and that's your replacement, you know? And that's what happens in our organization, right? We're not taking Joe Soup. There's no Joe Soup cans here where you just go, hey, I'm going to put this guy with this guy and match them together. That doesn't happen here, right? So you're dealing with a very high level of athlete. And it's not just, oh, this main event is high level. The whole main card, even down into the prelims, you're seeing higher level guys, and that's one thing that separates my organization by 100 miles compared to these other, you know, organizations in Canada. And outside of, you know, DW show and Coulter show, you know, most people would agree that I'm number 3 in North America.
Mm-hmm. You know, like you said, starting off at the lower end of the card, I know you're excited to see Tyrone Glover make his MFC debut. What can the fans in Alberta that might not know much about the American expect when they see Tyrone?
Well, can you imagine? The guy in his 4th fight ever fought Din Thomas, and Din Thomas was in his prime, okay? He beat Din Thomas, I believe it was in Pride. I could be corrected. He beat him in Pride, and then he turns around and says, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to become a lawyer, right? Because I'm bored. So he goes and becomes a lawyer, stops being a lawyer and says, you know what, now that I'm a lawyer and I got everything, like my insurance policy all lined up, boom, I'm going to go back and fight in MMA. Who do you think they call? This guy is, like, to say the word phenom is an understatement. If you've ever watched him do grappling videos, and he's got great stand-up, and this is a guy that's extremely intelligent, and he's returning. We signed him to, I think it was like a 4 or 5 fight deal because I knew what I had when I got him.
You see also another recognizable name in Thomas Denny in your welterweight division. We've had him on the show before. This is a guy that seems to be very grounded for a guy that looks like a bit of a live wire when you see him fight. You know, are we going to see a rejuvenated Thomas Denny who's now more relaxed as a coach and maybe more grounded as a fighter?
I think so. That's why I signed him, right? Yep. Because he's not a cast off. He's not anything to do with that. You know, Thomas has been here many times because I have Brian Baker under roster and other people like that.
Yep.
And he, you know, I've always talked to him when he was been around, and I thought to myself, you know, character-wise, he's got a great deal of character. Heaven forbid that's got anything to do with mixed martial arts. You know, it's funny because I'm really fanatical about the records of fighters that are signed in the Maximum Fighting Championship. But at the same time, as I don't go cutting guys that win, you know, fights of the night, I cut them because they lost a fight. You know what I mean? That character to me is worth so much more sometimes than an actual win. And that's the kind of guy you're getting with Thomas Denny.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the top couple of fights here now with Antonio McKee. You know, last time we talked, he was getting ready to make his debut in the UFC, you know, albeit an unsuccessful one. And when I asked you, you know, should he lose and want to come back as a champion, you kind of said, well, I don't know, we'd have to cross that bridge when we get there. Well, you've crossed it. What came into your decision plan there? And on the other side, Drew Fickett, speaking of guys that maybe had a bit of a sullied reputation, I've heard nothing but good stuff about this guy lately, that he's changed his life around. Shine some light on the MFC Lightweight Championship fight.
Well, you know, to be honest with you, me and Antonio have a phenomenal relationship, right?
Okay.
At the same time, I wasn't jumping to sign him back right away. I wasn't at all. And the thing that what happened was, the reason why I got excited about signing him back is because I signed Drew Fickett, right? And it's like, you look at Drew in 2006, 2007, he was unstoppable, right? Then in 2008, then he gets into 2009, it was the worst year of his life, right? He lost a lot of people that, you know, back in the day wouldn't even be able to hold a jock strap. And then he says to himself in 2010, he reincarnates himself, right? And comes back at 155 and wrecks everybody. I mean, wrecks them.
4 fights in a row and only one went to the second round, and that was only $109 into the second round, defeating a guy who the MFC knows in Derek Noble.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, and you look at him and you go, wait a second. Now, I have zero talent, okay? I can't dance, I can't sing, I can do none of that thing. One thing I am really good at is knowing people that have real talent. And my problem has always been is I've been a little bit too honest with people sometimes, and they get offended by that, right? Because I can tell you right now, if you want me to do it secretly, I will email you a list of people, you know, when you hear in Canada, oh, this guy's the next big thing, or this guy is so great, or this guy is so great. Let me give everybody a news flash. If you're not fighting in the MFC, okay, you're either scared, not good enough, or You know that you can't pick your opponents in our organization. Those are the three factors. Because why would you fight anywhere else if you have the ability to fight in MFC when you know you're getting paid very well, you get great corporate sponsors, and heaven forbid, everybody, we're the only show in the whole country that's live on television, United States, Canada, and Mexico. That's not bragging. That's 16 hours a day, 7 days a week of work. Now it's starting to pay. Now it's starting to pay off, right?
Yeah.
So I see all these guys creeping around in these other organizations saying how they're the they're the man, they're this, they're that. I laugh. It's not true, right? So sometimes I'm a little bit overly honest with people on the level where they're at in this business. Like, I'm not going to give you advice though about cars, world hunger, other things like that. But I'm going to give you advice about mixed martial arts.